Hi guys. So today is Wednesday, January 27th, and for your writing lesson, today you are going to find and cite reliable sources in your informational writing. That is our goal. So, what is a reliable source? That's what we will talk about today. And how can you cite your sources in the text and name where you got the information from? That is our goal. Okay, so as you do today's lesson, I want you to take the time to watch this video. This video will actually tell you how to evaluate sources for reliability, which means that they are good sources, they're true sources. Now, when we talk about sources of information, a lot of times you might Google the information, and that's fine as long as you find places that have facts that are true. When it's not reliable, that means that the facts aren't true. Some of those might be Wikipedia. Anyone can go into Wikipedia and enter information. And that doesn't mean it's true because anyone has the access to that website. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all those social media sources, they are not reliable sources either because anyone can post there and say whatever they want freely. However, those websites that usually end up with gov, meaning government, or .org, because it's an organization, those are usually very reliable sources. Books are reliable sources in the sense that they have been published. Like if it's an autobiography, obviously it's a um, primary source. If it's a biography, so the life of somebody written by somebody else, of course, they probably did some research on the person. There are a wealth of websites that are reliable as long as we can make sure that the teachings are true in it. So watch this video, and then after watching the video, go through this PowerPoint. Um, if you look at the PowerPoint, it will make a few um, questions. So, which source would probably have the most reliable information about penguins? So, look at your choices: an article on the North Pole, the Magic Tree House Eve of Emperor Penguin, watch a video, an aggressive side to penguins, and interview a zookeeper who works with penguins. Well, with this one, it will be a primary source and it would be an interview. It is reliable information because she is an expert. An article most likely is a reliable source. Now, the Magic Tree House, though it has some parts that are true, it's a fiction book. Now, the aggressive side of penguins may not be what you want in this case, so we also have to watch for matching information. Um, so, you have to be careful because the video can be made up, or can it, or is it from National Geographic where they actually did a study? So it all depends on what you're looking for. Same thing happens when you go here. For example, students are writing a report about a recent earthquake in China. Which source would you give the students the most reliable facts, or which one would give the most reliable facts? Well, a map showing hazard areas in the United States, that's not even related to what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is China and an earthquake. So this is not a reliable source, nor a source. Well, it is a reliable source, but not a source that actually matches the information that we're looking for. A newspaper article on the earthquake in China. Well, if we were writing an opinion, I would say maybe this one, but you have to make sure because newspapers can be biased. They might have some feelings towards something. So we don't know where they got their information from. So you got to be very careful with a newspaper because sometimes they can be reliable sources and sometimes they cannot. So you have to be very careful about it. A website called Quake Prediction, well, it would give you information that is a reliable source as long as the website ends with .org, .gov, or it's not just .com where anyone can create the website. Then you have to be careful. A book titled Earthquakes, of course, it can be a reliable source. We want to make sure that we learn information about earthquakes, so it may not have to do with China, but if you want to find some information about earthquakes and add to your report, of course, that would be a reliable source. So a book and a website, as long as it ends with the correct .gov, .org, those kind of reliable sources at the end. Same thing, Mark is doing a report about what it was to sail on the Mayflower. So which of these resources would be best? A map of the route of the Mayflower? Well, of course, a map would be a reliable source. Those pictures are vital. We've talked about how visuals make a difference too, so that can be it. A nonfiction book called If You Sail on the Mayflower. So since it's nonfiction, it is a reliable source. So it might be telling you a story for kids, but it has true information because it's nonfiction. If it was fiction, then we would have a hard time. A video called Mouse on the Mayflower, well, it might have some reliable information, but not all of it could be reliable. So you got to be very careful. Now, there's a website called mayflowerhistory.com. Again, if the website is true and it's got real information, then it could be helpful, but you got to be very careful with those websites. So in this case, Sally's doing a report on Christopher Columbus, which source would not be used in the early 1900s to research the information for this report. So which one was not available? So this one's, you guys have a book called The Story of Christopher Columbus, a photograph of Christopher Columbus, which you can always add to your reports, photographs, as long as they're true and real, a brain pop outline video about Columbus, or a magazine article about Christopher Columbus. So as long as the magazine article is factual, of course, it is a reliable source. Now, a brain pop is a reliable source. It usually has lots of good information. So think about which one would you not use. I definitely wouldn't use a magazine article because a magazine can be biased. So you have to be very careful about that. After that we've gone through the PowerPoint, again, you need to watch that video on your own. Since we talked about what a reliable source is, I want you to look at slide 7 of your interactive notebook. So when you look at your interactive notebook, you go to slide 9. Let me fix that later. Slide 9. And you'll see that there's a list of website sources where you can say, well, here's where I'm getting my information. So if the main information that you receive from me or from Ms. J or from Ms. Moore is from docsters.com. That's the article that you read about your famous person. So we've already listed that there. Are there any other websites that you might want to research information on? Then you have to go to if you do, when you find more information, then you need to go to the bar here, copy and paste it, copy it, and then paste it here. So you would have to go paste and they would appear right here. So we want to make sure that you have all of your sources of information cited in here. So if you've done more research, then you need to cite it. So your task for today is to look at this graphic organizer that you have here with all the information about your famous person. So the early life, the childhood, adulthood, the becoming famous. And I want you to look at one piece, one box of your notes that is empty, that has nothing. And I want you to research that. So let's pretend that, of course, I have Rosa Parks. So I'm going to research what were the most important events during the time they lived. So I'm going to go and Google search and I'm going to say, what was the most important, let me look at the question again. What was the most important event during the life of Rosa Parks? Since she is my person. So biography.com is actually a reliable source. I researched it before, and it does have good information. So the civil rights movement is what was happening. If you look at this, it's best known for refusing to give up her seat on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, which sparked a year-long boycott that was the turning point in the civil rights movement. And that really is what was going on at that time. So I'm going to put, what were the most important events? Well, the civil rights movement. Of course, if I keep adding, if I keep reading, I'll find more information, and I can do that. So the March on Washington in 1963, the Voting Rights Act, all of these are really good websites. So since I use this one, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy my website, and I'm going to go to my websites here, because since I got information from there, I need to make sure that I type my website here. So I'm going to add that, and there's my website. So I have a list of sources that I can use now. So think about this, guys. What fact or what new fact did you learn about your famous person since you chose one of the boxes here and did a little more research on the life of the person after citing your new information? So what is something new that you learned?